Next part of this is declarative versus imperative in React. I see a lot of developers writing for loops, while loops, if statements, switch statements, because this is what we're taught. These are the basics of JavaScript. But in React, we write declaratively. Everything about React is declarative. We return JSX. It's very what we're doing. And if you start to think in this way, your code will become more readable, self-descriptive, and you also avoid data mutation. A lot of low-level languages are happy to do data mutation, and they'll also manage their memory as well. In JavaScript, we don't manage our own memory, and we also want to avoid mutation as much as possible. Mutation is often what leads to many bugs and really hard to debug bugs as well. So we want to be moving more towards using array functions like map, filter, produce, ternary operators, and there will become cases where you have multiple nested ternary operators where you might want to switch back to using an if statement. What we want is readability. And I want to show you with a few examples what that readability looks like and why it's something that you want within your React applications. I want you to really look at the examples, and I want you to really think about the readability of this. And like Jack said, you could add comments to this, but sometimes you don't need to. And sometimes it's less desirable to do so because those comments might come stale. Code is changing all the time. So I'll give you these are the most common examples that I see. And I will see someone define a variable at the top level, their initial var, and then they will mutate it somewhere along a very convoluted for loop. Now, just for everyone who's wondering why they probably like for loops. For loop, if we measured it on a speed performance basis, a for loop is way faster than any array method that we can use. But it's not why we're using it. Everything should be declarative. Everything should be in this style. And so when you're actually assigning a variable, reassigning a variable, you could just instead use a reduce, which does the exact same thing, but gives you in a much cleaner way. And the same thing for pushing into an array. If we're pushing items in an array, we don't need to do that. We can just use map. And both of these do not mutate state. They don't mutate the value. They produce a new value, which is a clean value that you can then use. Another one I often see is mutating in place in an array. This, if you use that array somewhere else, you've mutated that value. And so you don't have full consistency about what that value is, what that array really holds, because you're mutating it in place. Whereas you are better off using an immutable spread operator to create a whole new array. So then you've got a clean array that then you can use. It's predictable, it's pure, and it's safe. Another common one is a switch statement, where if you read this switch statement, you've got a reason about what's going on, right? You have to sit here and you have to go, okay, we're getting a status code and we've got some cases and the result is success and we're breaking through. Like, we're telling the computer how to do something rather than just doing an object lookup where we've got an object with some key value pairs, we pass in the status code and it will give us the success message, or it will fall back to an error. What I'm getting at here is obvious code drives maintainability. More readable code means fewer bugs, faster reviews, and easier onboarding for new developers to come in. If someone developer came and they saw what you see on the left-hand side here, which is vague names, imperative logic, you're going to get confused. What's FL? What are the props? Okay, I can work out the res is a result. So it's an array. Okay, and I've got a for loop that maps over some values, and I can kind of work out that props.f with the index is online. You have to work it out. Instead of if you just looked at the second example, function, online friends lists. It has a prop called friends, and those friends I can filter for the friends that are online. You could have put comments to say this, but the code being readable means you don't have to really guess. And then you take those online friends, and I'm mapping through a list of the online friends, in this case using a semantic ULLI list structure. So I'm going to give you a challenge now to do another exercise, which is your naming and declarative polish. You've got a shopping cart that is in desperate need of renaming and refactoring. What we want to get to is declarative code with really, really strong names. So I'm going to give everyone 10 minutes from this point to go and pull the exercise. Please share them in the chat. They're small enough I can share it in the chat. So as soon as everyone's done, or if anyone's got a solution, please post it in the chat and I'll give a look and give my feedback. Fantastic. Let me have a look at Jack's. Can I copy this? Let's grab that. Shopping cart. I know it wants me to import React, but it's fine. Stock items. So one thing, first of all, we only capitalize and use Pascal case for component names. So firstly, this should be lowercase and it should be camel case. So stock items should look like that. That's what we want to use. In stock items, that's fine. Why is it telling me to do a little? I was curious what it said there. I feel like I'm refactoring code now. Anyway, total, brilliant, reduce, fantastic. We've taken in stock items, we've reduced them down to a total. But the total is the sum, the price and the quantity. So it's the total cart. Do you see what I'm saying? I have to work out what total is, right? Based on the context, which means it could have been clearer in the name. Yep, this is fine. Cart, that's fine. But what is the cart? Could we use a different tag here? Again, div. Oh, it's a lot of divs. we want to get away from the divs. The divs, especially when you've got text, it's already suggesting to give it a p tag. But this is great. This shows that we are bridging the gap. We are making progress. Fantastic.